Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to rock? This is Gary from DWP, and we have Spencer and Aaron from Underoath joining off stage with DWP. What's up, guys?
It's hard as balls. We're really good.
Do you have Pirates booty?
It's hot.
It's pretty bad. It's hot down here.
It's not only hot. It's also it's thick. You know,
nice and muggy.
Nice and thick.
It rained already today. We're in St. Petersburg, which is right outside of Tampa. But it rained while Aaron was on the way over to my house, and then now it's just hot and thick.
Yeah. You know, I asked Randy of Lamb of God, who's a Virginia man, what does he prefer if he had the choice, like a February blizzardy snowstorm or a middle July hot, humid as fuck day? And he's like, hot. Yeah, he goes immediately
Same.
Hot. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
I don't like singing and dealing with travel and all that stuff in the wintertime is a living hell. Touring in the winter is also super scary.
Awful, yeah. Touring
like being in buses in the winter is so scary. If you're flying, it's like, is it going to get canceled today? You know, it's like that whole thing. Like I loathe the winter, so I'd rather sweat my ass off than
all right. Noted.
Just jump in the water. You know, you can just jump in the water somewhere. Find some water to jump in.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I mean, shit, you guys should be. This is, you know, it's all very frustrating and angst-ridden for us as well, because we should be on the road putting 40,000 a day rock fans into green space and festivals, and you guys should be on Knotfest. You know, you should have played Madison Square Garden with you know, how are you holding up with that? And I think and I say that because I think you're turning, you know, you're making lemonade from lemon with what we're about to get into with your observatory gigs.
I mean, it sucks, right? I mean,
yeah, it
of
does.
course, like, you know, we always wanted to do like a proper tour with Slipknot. We did Mayhem Festival with them, like, you know, literally it was 08 or 09. So we had always wanted to do like a proper tour with those guys. And so this was like a dream come true, you know? And then obviously like, it was just going to be a huge, huge tour. And then it got canceled. It kind of ruined our whole plan. You know, we did some holiday shows with the Day to Remember here in Florida, 2 days before Thanksgiving and 2 days after. And then we had started to write once a month. So our plan was to have like a record written and then go on the road with Slipknot and record that record right after.
Yeah.
And we literally got like 2 writing sessions in and had to pull the plug on the whole thing because of COVID. So everything kind of changed, you know, like we literally hadn't played in 8 months until this thing because everything just went tits up, you know? So it changed our whole.
If I can ask, how'd you guys feel on your first go around at the observatory? Some rust or immediately like right back into it it was yesterday?
I think it was really exciting to obviously be in a room together. Even doing this is crazy because I've been alone, you know, in my house away from my bandmates, and like everyone has. So just to get in the room together and play was exciting. But I think it was probably the most nerve-wracking show. The first show of the observatory was the most nerve-wracking show of my entire career.
Is that right?
Can remember. Because I was explaining this earlier, like an Underoath show is most of the show is based off what's happening in the room. And that 50% of that is the audience, at least 50% of it. That energy you see from Underoath, if you've ever seen us live before, isn't fake. We don't choreograph things. We don't plan shit out. It's like that is the audience energy giving us this adrenaline and this high that it's kind of hard to explain unless you've done it before. Anyone that's been in a band and been on stage knows what I'm talking about, is that what you get from the crowd gives you that energy and that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's going into a show for the first time in our career going, there are people watching, but we can't see them, was a real mental game. It was a mind fuck because you're not going on stage. You're not feeding off of an audience. You know, at this point, we're playing an observatory, so in a circle, we're playing off of each other, which is something Underoath does anyway, but it was completely different. And, you know, you don't have a reaction. You know, like when people are excited to hear a song, and maybe it's an old song that you're like, oh, I play that song so much, you know, what a drag. But when you see the audience loves it, that goes away. You know, but now you're kind of a little bit more in your head. So you're kind of like, we got to perform this perfect and there is no live.
I keep saying it's like a mixture between playing a show and filming a music video. You know what I mean? Because you're into the song, you're into the music, but it's so different. You don't get that like adrenaline shot from a bunch of people yelling and singing along. You know what I mean? So you're excited, but it's also like
it's weird.
It's a mental game because you're really thinking more about every lyric in every piece of music. It's not just like second nature like it is live. You're like, wait, is that right? Like you're kind of doing that too, which that's what makes it fucking exhausting. Is you have to you got to think about it. You know what I mean? Where normally you're not really thinking about it too much because
you're free.
The 10% that you would be thinking about it, the crowd kind of takes over that 10% with that hit of adrenaline you get. You know what I mean?
That's so interesting because you don't want it to come off. Again, and tomorrow night we're going to have the last of the three, which is going to be They're Only Chasing Safety in full. So don't miss it, everybody. Again, you're off stage with DWP. Lucky enough to have Spencer and Aaron with us from Underoath. Does it feel like this intense rehearsal? Like it's a rehearsal, but it's the number one rehearsal,
or past rehearsal.
Yeah, it felt like a show. It's like it's intimidating. It's the butterflies don't leave because that relief you get, like I said, when you see that crowd and they're excited and you're excited and you start playing and you're just free. That never leaves because there is no crowd. There is, but you can't see them. So it's just like you're just on butterflies and like there's some sort of anxiety, but good anxiety, like the good butterflies. Like you're like really excited and anxious to do it.
I don't know if you've seen any of it, but the way that our people built it is it's like an octagon. So we're really just in a big like a 4,000 square foot warehouse where we actually rehearse. And we do all our pre-production and stuff there. So we're actually inside this big warehouse. They built this octagon. So, and there's lights like in a ring. You can see some images online or whatever. There's lights like in a ring around the outside of this octagon. So when you walk in, you can't see out. So you're really in this thing. You know what I mean? And then there's 9 cameras. That they're kind of responsible for this thing. Honestly, these camera guys and this crew of dudes that's doing this, like, they're in there with us, like dodging us and
they're rock stars.
I mean, they're part of it.
I'd love to get into that because before I do, look, Underoath is a heavy touring band, like a Slipknot. That's your go-to. That's your bread and butter. And now, in a sense, when you're playing at the Observatory, you're playing to millions, but you're also playing to zero. So I get how it's a head trip.
Yeah, it is. It's wild, man. But it was fun. Like it was still. I was a little worried that I was like, "Is this going to be enjoyable?" Like, and it still was. We had a fucking blast still.
Yeah,
well,
it was.
Tell us about Odd Life Studios and tell us about Tension Division, if you can explain both those and what they're bringing to Underoath Observatory gigs.
Tension has been with us since our record came out in 2018. Erase Me. They did that whole visual, all the visuals for Observatory, the idea, the name. They all came up with that, And I think, I collect records. It's something that I love to do. Like, and as record collectors, you always are looking for like imports, right? Like a Japanese import or a British import or whatever. Yeah. So with this Observatory thing, we wanted it to feel like a place. Like a stamp in time. So there's actually vinyl and merchandise and everything that comes along with these things. It's like a blip in time. This is the Observatory edition. So they really did a good idea of like, and that was my idea. When they brought this whole thing in, like I had this idea of like, I wanted to feel like this moment in time kind of thing, and they really took that and ran with it. So all the aspects of this, how it feels like you're kind of happening upon a place that this band is just playing in, all of that. That's all of them. And then the production company, I don't know how many live streams you've watched, but a lot of them you see, there's like Brady Bunch style squares, that's fake. When you see that, that's not real. Basically what those guys do and gals do is they record their own parts and then they mix it together and put it together, which is fine. But what we've
not
done.
Really, it's not live.
What we've done is truly a band playing live, and then it's being mixed live, and then everything you see visually, and this is where the production company really crushed it, is they're like physically switching the cameras live.
Yeah, like a director's probably going, camera 3, go to camera 5, stay on 6.
So there was a guy sitting there, and he had a screen with all 9 cameras on it, and everyone's shooting the whole time. He's the guy picking what shots is he seeing. Like, he was playing live, and those camera guys were like, between the camera guys and the guys switching to what you saw, I mean, it took a whole army to pull that thing off. And it was like, the band was an integral part, but just as equal was Tension Division and in the camera production team and everyone, the band crew, our manager, like, dude, the people that have put their heads together to pull this thing off. It's probably the most work to pull off one show.
I mean, to be honest, you're kind of talking to the 2 dudes that had the least to do with creatively making this happen. You know what I mean? Like, us is who we are in this band. It's like, we're the performers, we write the music, but like, we're not, making this thing what it was had very, very little to do with us other than what you saw in that performance.
Right. So what we're going to see Friday night is the band rocking, but the director who's in charge of the multi-cameras, he's a member of the band in a sense. He's playing an instrument.
Even more, because you got to think, like, imagine, I mean, and there's lots of them out there. There's lots of live streams you can watch. But for us, our big thing was like, we didn't want just a camera on a tripod and then us playing on a stage. We wanted it to feel like you're in the room. Like, we wanted you to feel like if you're watching this, you're immersed by it. That's why it's a circle, because we wanted you to feel part of that.
And
so
like, you gotta think about it, man. Like, you know how this shit goes. Like, you cannot replace the live concert. We never will, right? Like, it's like, I explained this to my
smell, the vibe, the tribal aspect, the gathering,
about being
shoulder to shoulder. Yep.
Something about being in the room in that experience, like, you'll never replace that. And I explain to people that don't maybe get what I'm saying as to sports. If you've ever been to a live football game, tailgated, got in the stadium, heard the screaming fans watch the game, it's completely different than watching it at home on TV. That's how I explain this to my dad or whatever, whoever. Yeah. Like, and there's something about this, we wanted to not only just make it, like what Aaron was saying, just us on the stage playing as we would in a venue with no one there and some cameras. Like, we wanted it to be like not how you would see us in a venue, because this is we can't replace the live show, but we can do something that's a live show, a live stream that would be different from a live show. So the cameraman's in there, and you're getting close-up shots of Aaron and me or whoever, like, in the cameras, and they're bumping into us. It's like, it's a different type of live experience that you would experience going to a show. It's not better or worse, and it will not replace going to a concert, but it's something different. We want to do something different. That's what
I know what I'm doing Friday night with probably a cold one in my hand, and I'll be checking out. Spencer, you have been quoted, because to play the 2008 record in full, you've been quoted saying, those lyrics are awful. It came from another time. What's it like when you but even 2008 was 12 years ago as a human and as a person, and on track 7, which you probably never play in an hour set, that you're playing songs that you play. Where do you go as an artist when you have to when you have to go there and repeat those lyrics from 12 years ago?
The record that we get quoted saying about the lyrics being awful would have been the 2004 Chasing Safety release, which we haven't played yet. So that was because we were like teenagers when we wrote that. Yeah. And you look back on that, and I think every album we've done, we did the best we could at that period in time. But as a human being, as a man, as an artist, as a writer, we all grow, right? I mean, Everyone's growing and hopefully becoming better at their craft. And I feel like every member in Underoath has come millions of miles from 2004 was our first record as a band for the 6 of us doing it. Like, we've just learned so much. And, I mean,
it's really simple. You got to think about it. Like, we're 37 years old, both of us, a few months apart. So we wrote many and most of those lyrics at 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you got to think, you're looking at almost 20 years of relationships and I have 2 kids, and like all of that stuff, and that's what makes it. I think that's what makes it difficult. Is that
let's put it this way: the Beatles recorded music for 6.5 years.
Yeah, totally.
And you're talking about 16 years later.
And listen to "I Want to Hold Your Hand" and
"She Loves You," sure.
and
into something, or right.
Yeah.
It's
night and day difference. And I think those are the records. When we play songs off "They're Only Chasing Safety," that's where the crowd really comes in, like, because you play what I was saying earlier, like when you kind of like, oh man, we played this song so many times, like, but then you see the crowd's faces, and it's great to play something that people enjoy, like that's awesome. But in a live stream setting, well, who knows? We haven't gotten to that.
The fans really are the ones that push that 19-year-old, kind of adolescent angsty shit over the edge and make it great every night. Because
sure.
we've played some of those songs thousands of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we're gonna see what that feels like.
Yeah, we have to do that record.
So that's a good segue. That's a good segue.
I have it. Cancel the interview.
Cancel. I have it. COVID. I've got it.
COVID. We're done.
I don't know if sneezing. I don't know.
It's not. I'm allergic to everything. I've had a test. We're good.
I want to go back to, you are a band that is, and I don't know if you realized it now, but back in the day, how revered you are by genres and generations of bands. When you played your final gig at Janus Live in January 2013, and then I think you reunited for Self-Help in San Bernardino, California in March 2016. Bands like A Day to Remember, bands like Bring Me the Horizon revered you. Did you realize that in 2013 and during your hiatus?
I don't think so. No.
I don't think you should. I think it's unhealthy as an artist to look at yourself in the mirror and go, we really created something. I think when people like yourself say that to us, that's when you're like, whoa. But I think if you know that about yourself, you're probably an asshole. You know what I mean? Like if you look at yourself in the mirror,
does that have anything to do with you guys reuniting, or not even? Like all these bands dig us. We should get back together.
Oh fuck no, dude. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. That's what makes you an asshole. Like I think for us, it was like we love each other and we love this music. We want to keep doing this.
Yeah, I think we needed. I think everything happens for a reason in a strange way. I think that I was kind of the last man standing. Like we shouldn't break up. Like. I kind of fought it. It was kind of like dragging the band through the mud for the last year or two.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. Let's keep touring. Let's keep making music. And looking back on it now, I think it needed to happen, even though I was the one that was probably the most angry and pissed off. Like, I can't believe these guys quit on me. That's kind of like the way it felt. But looking back on it, I'm like, no, a lot of stuff needed to be fixed. And the only way to fix that was to kind of like maybe take some time apart with no intention of talking or communicating or getting the band back together. Like it wasn't one of those like, let's break up and take some time and then come back bigger, because it came back bigger than it ever was. But I think that wasn't the goal. There was literally not any plans of like, it wasn't like, fuck you as we left, but it was kind of like, well, that chapter's over. Like, I don't know who I'll continue to speak with after this.
Was there like Thanksgiving texts? What's up, Spencer?
No, I don't think
we started
Christmas
We started a group text in 2014 where we kind of toyed with the idea of doing a 10-year anniversary of They're Only Chasing Safety. Yeah, we did.
No, because when we first the group text started in 2016 about Define the Great Line.
Oh, you're right.
And because the joke was we missed the 10-year of Chasing Safety because we weren't talking.
That's right.
And that's why we played both records.
Yeah, it literally started with a group text though, which is funny that you said Thanksgiving chat. We started with a group text when Define the Great Line was 10 years old, and we're like, we missed one.
It was about to turn 10, and we were like, it was either 2015 or 2016 when the first text came around, and that was
that's
like,
right.
And the reason why we played both records is because someone made it kind of a lowbrow joke, or we weren't talking during the Chasing Safety, 10 years, so we might as well play that one too. And we ended up doing it.
So your first major comeback run was with Bring Me the Horizon?
No, our first one was a headlining tour. We played both of our biggest records, so They're Only Chasing Safety, Find the Great Line. And then our second was, so we did that for a year. We did that on every continent.
Yeah.
So we did Europe, Australia, the States. We just didn't do South America. We had the offer, but didn't do it. And then our next tour was with Bring Me the Horizon.
Right, which was I think 17, and then 18. We wedded. We got together with DWP, and you guys did the run. You did Rockville. You did the last Rock on the Range. You did Aftershock. You did the run with us, and
we did all of them.
We
yeah,
did
man.
All of them but one. We were somewhere else or something. It
wasn't our fault.
No. We had an offer for all of them. We just had there was something. We had like a previous.
We were on our headlining tour. We couldn't make one of them.
Yeah, there was one. It didn't work.
We scheduled all of them into our tour. One of them we were just like somewhere. It wouldn't have worked. Like
it was a travel issue.
Yeah.
But that run coincided with Erase Me, and I think there was this real probably kind of jumping off point, like with On My Teeth. Was there a conscious decision like we may lose something here, but we're going for this? Or was it not even in your mind? Which, by the way, everybody, led to a Grammy nomination so I think it paid off, but.
For us, like, if you listen to our music since 2004, like, we really have just had, like tons of different styles of music. Like, it's us, it's all unequivocally us, but we're not the type of band that does, like, the same record over and over again, because I feel like that's a slight to your fans. I think if you make the same record over and over again, like eventually they're going to go, are they telling us the truth? You know what I mean? So for us, every record we make is where we are at that time. It's like a snapshot. This is where we are right now, currently. You know what I mean? And I think that's the important thing about our band. And I think that's why, we've had longevity, is because we have the ability to go, okay, like, let's check our expectations at the door and just make something that's true and honest. So with Erase Me, you really are getting that. It just was 10 years later, which is why I think a lot of people were like, whoa, because we got back together, we played these seminal records, and then we came out with something that was really left field compared to those seminal records. And I think that if we would have been a band the whole time, you would have still had Erase Me eventually. You know what I mean? But you got to think there was 10 years span of time between records. So you end up with something that's really different.
I agree with you, and you're artist. You're creating art. You're not a machine, and that's why the best bands of the scene, to me, you guys, Bring Me the Horizon, Day to Remember, they're challenging themselves and their fans. There's so many bands that kind of go up like this and then just plateau. Maybe they're afraid to challenge themselves, or they just start writing the same record over and over. We've seen that one too many times. So I applaud you guys for kind of taking the leap and evolving like that.
I think for bands like us, or Bring Me, or Day to Remember, or Thrice, or any of the bands you name like that do that, I don't know if it's just, I think that's just kind of who you are. I don't think we would be happy. It's not like we're like making this conscious, like, we're going to make this like bold artistic move. Like, even when we did Define the Great Line after Chase Safety, we were just like, no, let's just play stuff that we want to play. Like, we were always just in search of like making ourselves stoked. Like, if I'm stoked and I look at Aaron, he's stoked, and Tim's stoked on board jamming something, I'm like, well, this is good. Like, because otherwise, if we're going to do what we did on the last record, it's like, we're probably going to be bored. And then we wouldn't put out something that we wouldn't. I mean,
we come from the pre-social media era. You know what I mean? So, like, for us, it was about, like, what you think. Like, in a room with your 5 friends, like, is this fucking cool?
Yeah.
Like,
how refreshing is that, by the way?
I mean, it's unheard of. But now, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but a lot of bands and artists make music now for reaction. And if you're working based on a reaction, like, is what you're doing true? And I'm not saying it's all like that, because there's amazing shit everywhere, but you can't make stuff anymore based off reaction and expect people to know that it's real. And people can smell a fucking rat. They can't.
And I think some bands do really enjoy playing the same metalcore kind of formula on every record. Like, maybe that's what they love, what they listen to at Underoath.
Which is okay.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But for us, it's not, like, because we're 6 different dudes, completely different tastes for the most part. And what you hear on an Underoath record is us compromising with each other. It's like a storm every time we get into a room to try to make a song, because we all like different shit. And I just think it's just natural for us. Like, you're never going to hear the same record twice, just because it's hard for us to get all on the same page. And I think if we were doing stuff to just appease our fans from 2006 that love Define the Great Line, or the fan that loves Lost in the Sound, or whatever record, like, we would be miserable. And we wouldn't do it. I know our band, like, if they're not happy playing it, they're not going to play it.
It's also a lie.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make if
they're not going to leave their wives and kids and go on tour playing music that they don't.
Yeah, you're the ones who have to play it every night. You're the ones who's going to slog 5 or 6 hours in the bus to get to the next gig, and you got to be inspired.
To leave your family behind, at least half the year to go play a bunch of shit that you don't want to play is not going to happen.
Yes, sir.
It's just
one of your festivals, we saw Alice in Chains play. Was it Rock on the Range? We saw them play over the sea of people.
Carolina Rebellion. We walked over the hill right as they started. We were like, oh.
But I was just thinking about that moment, you know, like, and that band has been doing something for decades that's completely original.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And here's 40,000 people at your festival, and it's just magic. You know what I mean? Like, that's what makes it, man. That's what makes the magic. Is something.
What about the moment sitting there looking at it like, man, what if we could tour with a band like that? Literally the next summer we're on tour with Alice in Chains. It was fucking
Alice and Korn. I mean, those are like A+ on tour. The way they perform and the way they tour, both bands, it's.
But both bands, though, I mean, I'll bringing that up to say this, like, totally original.
Yeah.
When Korn came out, you remember, like, Life is Peachy. Like, do you remember that? Like, in the first record too, but like, no one had ever seen any or heard anything like that.
Kind of a new sound. And
I think for us, that's what's important. It's like, and those are the bands that look at Slipknot. In my opinion, those are the bands that last. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be
like a Radiohead or a Tool. If you're
Tool,
absolutely.
Dude. One of our favorites too, Radiohead as well. I don't ever want to be part of a trend.
Deftones.
Deftones. When everyone else was doing, like, it got more extreme on the new metal thing, they kept doing their own thing. Maybe they didn't go as high up as some of the other bands, but they just cruised as other bands crashed. And they're still there making great music, still selling out shows. Like, their career is like, wow, what an iconic.
Yeah, I don't want to ever be part of a trend.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get that. I get that on Underoath. You guys really,
Yeah, that's why we didn't try to go back and recreate what we did when we were 19, 20 years old. Because we look at the bands like Tool and Nine Inch Nails and Deftones and Radiohead, like all the shit you mentioned, that those bands just make music. You know, like, look at how Radiohead's catalog is just it just keeps evolving. And, you know, Nine Inch Nails, it's like, you never know what to expect, but you're always going to go to the show. No matter if it's like, I know that there's like a electronic Nine Inch Nails and there's like a more rock Nine Inch Nails, and I love when they have like the rock heavy records, but even if he puts out like this crazy weird electronic record, I'm still at the fucking show and I love every minute of it. But that's just an artist that just keeps making art. Like,
So Aaron, I wanted, we're off stage with DWP. I don't get to ask and hang and interview a lot of drummers. I'm a drummer. So to geek out for a minute or two, and you mentioned pre-internet, pre-MySpace. So who was the? Give me 2 drummers that you grew up with where you're like, that's what I'm fucking doing.
You know, I sing. And so for me as a little kid, it was Levon Helm from the band. That was the truth. But when I became an adolescent and got really into music, it was 100% Dave Grohl all the way to the wall. And then he ended up being this great singer, which we didn't know really until Unplugged. You know,
I mean, he's on all the records.
He's on the records, but I didn't see with my eyes.
You appreciate him as a vocalist, right?
I didn't see with my eyes until I saw him sing in harmony with Kurt on like In the Pines and some of that stuff.
Right.
So those 2 guys are my formidable, you know, as a guy who sings and also plays the drums. Obviously.
A little John Henry Bonham, sure.
Of course, JB, he's the man. Bonzo.
Have you listened? Have you like studied old Genesis, like Phil Collins stuff?
I love Phil Collins, but Phil Collins is such a strange thing because it's really its own. You know, I just read his book actually, which is funny you brought that up. He made a lot of that fucking music like at home alone in his studio with no drums. So if you don't get into the early Genesis, you don't really get to hear him like actually playing. You know, like a lot of that, like Sussudio and all that shit.
Oh yeah, forget that. Yeah.
Like,
right.
So if you don't go back far enough with Phil Collins, it gets pretty bleak, in my opinion. And I love pop music, but some of that shit, I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? You know? So like,
I was a huge combo of Bonham and Stuart Copeland. Give me Stuart Copeland's hi-hat and Bonham's
dude, I always
power.
forget about, I don't know how it's possible, but I always forget about the Police. Like, I was driving the other day and.
But wasn't he didn't he also drum for Cream?
That'd be Ginger Baker, a little older. Sorry, we can go down this rabbit hole all day. So.
That Ginger Baker doc on Netflix?
Yes. He's a brutal dude. Yeah.
Where he fucking hits that guy. He hits
tough.
I'm not a drummer, but I've always really been attracted to the drum. I mean, drum is a driving force in rock and roll, in my opinion.
Well, if you talk about like Ginger Baker and Mitch Mitchell, Jimi Hendrix, and these guys are like jazz drummers. You know, they brought that to the rock world.
You got to think about music and how it started, right? Like before rock, there was skiffle. Before skiffle, there was jazz. Before jazz, there was chamber music, so there was really no percussion. So jazz, those were the first motherfuckers, right? I mean, those were the first dudes. Like, so I didn't know you got into that shit, but there's all that shit as a kid that I loved. Elvin Jones and Max Roach.
Oh yeah, Buddy Rich and
I
Gene
loved
Krupa.
all that stuff. Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa were never my thing. They weren't dangerous enough. Like,
interesting.
I love them now as players. When I was a kid, I liked all that, like that back alley, like we're kind of barely making it because we're on so much heroin, but like the music is like, you know, I was always attracted to that. Like I was always attracted to things that were barely hanging on, you know, like Nirvana. If you watch Lee Von Helm or you watch Nirvana, or you watch John Bonham, those dudes were barely hanging on. Like it was
almost off the tracks, right?
It was so unbridled. Keith Moon, it was so unbridled that you were like, is this safe?
Right.
Like
yeah, Keith Moon was
Keith Moon was a psychopath. But like, you know, these guys are such great drummers, but it was always on the cusp of like, is this gonna come apart?
Fun fact, if you watch Keith Moon at Woodstock or Isle of Wight in 69, 70, no, there's no fucking hi-hat. He doesn't play a hi-hat. It's all crash cymbals.
Oh my God.
Next time, watch that again. It's crazy. And then lastly, I bring all this up, Aaron, because you drum with Paramore. And
I did, yeah.
What people don't realize, those first two Paramore records, like you got to know how that, you got to be a drummer.
It was a thing, man. You know,
yeah.
It was the hardest part with the Paramore gig. I'm gonna be really honest with you. Their first three records weren't that big of a deal. Like it was a lot of work, but it wasn't too far stylistically from what I do now. The fourth record, the record that I was there for the whole record cycle on, and I ended up playing on that live at Red Rocks record as well, was done by a drummer named Elon Rubin, who plays now for Nine Inch Nails.
He's incredible.
How about that?
He is a motherfucker.
Damn good.
I think he might be the best drummer today now, the best rock drummer today now. I mean, but he's left-handed.
He's ambidextrous.
And he plays open-handed. He's ambidextrous. He plays open-handed. He also like a virtuoso on the piano. So he played on that fourth record. He was their studio guy. And decoding his shit was because he's left-handed. So all of his fills start with his left hand.
Right.
So here I am.
Like Phil Collins, back to Phil Collins. Left-handed.
Exactly. So here I am crossed over playing a traditional trap kit. So I ended up eventually, like a month in, I was so frustrated because I was like aerobic working out to try to like figure this shit out. I ended up putting a floor tom to my left and it fixed everything. It fixed all my problems.
Interesting. All right. We've probably lost everybody.
That's
You know, we're the two guys at backstage at the end. Everybody's in the bus and we're still like geeking out and talking about
still going.
Right. Drummers, first to arrive, last to leave.
Right. I'm actually the first to leave, but anyways. Yeah.
Well, hey, we're off stage with DWP. You guys, everybody's going to be in for a treat watching Underoath Observatory gig. Anything you guys want to say to the Underoath fans and everybody out there right now that can't see you in person?
Tune in, grab a ticket. I mean, this is as close as you're going to get. I feel it's as close as you're going to get to an Underoath show, but it's also closer in some ways because of the way that
the cameras are,
and the way this was designed. There's like 8 or 9 angles, and there's cameras in the middle of the room.
It's a different live experience. Like I said earlier, we're not trying to replace your live concert. You know, we're trying to give you something different while we're all going through this lockdown quarantine together and trying to beat this coronavirus shit. That we're just offering something for people that love to go to shows to experience something different. and all the shows you'll be able to rewatch. I think once you purchase a ticket, you can go back and
I
watch.
think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's for 30 days.
Yeah, so you can go see the ones that you might have missed.
I know after the first one, some people were still buying tickets the following day because once you get tickets, you get access. And the great thing about it too, and this is me talking about what's really happening with this thing, is tickets are $15, and you can buy a ticket and invite all your friends over.
Yeah,
which is me not being a very good businessman, but fuck it. You know what I mean? Like
I used to tape somebody's album on cassette. It's okay.
Yeah, it's my own thing, and here I am blowing it up. But you can have 5 buddies over and watch this show.
Right on.
We've talked about this as like, as long as there's as long as the touring world is shut down, we'll try to find ways to bring stuff like this to the table. Like, hopefully we're all back on tour very soon, but if not, we'll hopefully play some more albums and do some more shit.
We're gonna keep trying. I think that's something that we do is like, we want to bring a feeling to people. I think that's what's most important about rock and roll, is that it's a feeling, it's an outlet, it's an expression. And I think for us, we're going to do that no matter what. Like, a virus or a rule can't make that go away. That the want for that feeling, and the want to share that feeling, and the want to put that out into the world, like, that's magic, right? And you can't take that away from somebody.
No,
and I think
it's the power of rock and roll right there.
We're going to do what else we can. We're going to do whatever we can to make that happen. So we'll just keep digging, man.
Well, Aaron, Spencer, Underoath, thanks for joining Off Stage with DWP. I can't wait to see you backstage at a DWP show so we can geek out, more drum talk.
Please, God.
I would pay you to do it at this point.
I would
Hey, Randy, you hear that?
Don't remember that I said that. I'm lying.
Hey, it's tough out there. We could use it. So, well, no, dudes, we'll see you. I know we'll see you hopefully in definitely 2021. And thanks for doing what you're doing by giving fans this opportunity to see you guys live too.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having us.
All right. Cheers.